Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name's Dennis. So today I've had some feedback. I've got cases that I wasn't able to get, so that's not a big deal. I've had some people refer to the Corsair case that I wasn't going to use. So what I've decided is I'm going to take what's on the test bench, put it in the Corsair case. I'm going to have to take that out and put that probably on the test bench for now until I figure out everything. I'm going to take the 360 AIO off of the one that's on there because I want to use that for the better motherboard. So that's going to be saved for another video with the newer motherboard and 7000 series CPU, all that kind of good stuff. So we're going to start off, and because it's a 5600X, the stock cooler will work fine with it for now until I can get a better one. So that's what we're going to start off with. I'm just going to turn the system off, replace that, which means I'll have to put the bracket back on. Okay, so it's not a big deal. We're going to put that back on, and then we're going to move on from there. We'll see how far we get. So we might only get part of this done, and then have to watch for the next video. So let's get going. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, we're just going to, oh yeah, look at that. We got an update. All right, I'll do the update, and then we'll continue. Okay, so that was discontinued. We're going to just shut the system down. Then we're going to get back to the motherboard itself. Disconnect the AIO. I'll show you how to do that actually, because sometimes the biggest hassle or biggest inconvenience is what do you do after you disconnect everything? You know, how do you know it's going to start again when you take off your AIO? So let's start with that. Okay, so anytime you're doing something like this, first thing you want to do is just take your graphics card off. All right, because like I say, we're taking this off the test bench. So anything you've got connected, you need to remove. So the antenna and the Wi-Fi card, I'll be taking that off, disconnecting all the power stuff, and removing the graphics card and the AIO. But what I will show you as well is what kind of spread did we get on the CPU from the CPU cooler? Did we get good coverage or not? So we're going to get onto that. We're going to disconnect our power, which is kind of a big deal here. Just anything that doesn't need to be on. Take all our USB, everything like that. When you're working on a test bench, there's a lot of stuff to remember. I'm going to disconnect the power because we're not turning this on again for a while. Sometimes that can be easier said than done, but not really difficult. So our Wi-Fi is just plugged in here and into the USB, so we're just going to disconnect that. And it just should pull right up. Perfect. We're going to take out the graphics card. Now there's a little catch on the left-hand side. You have to disengage first. Pull that out. And now I'm going to disconnect. You can do it beforehand. I just find it easier to do it this way. Just push on your pin and take out your power for your PCIe. Again, one last thing. We'll use either that graphics card or maybe a better one for the final product. And so the only thing we have to do here is take this off, 2 screws on both sides, and we'll have a look at what the spread was. So I'm going to focus in on that, and we're going to get to it. So don't forget, you have to disconnect your 24-pin power as well. So again, there's a little catch on there, and once it's off, it'll come off. So I want to show you, see if I can get this focused in there. We got all kinds of things plugged in. Our power, all that kind of stuff. So just trying to get that out of the way. So you can see how there's a lot going on here that you don't see because this is usually behind the scenes. But I thought I'd show you kind of a what happens where and when, and we'll disconnect the power from the power supply to it. Probably should have done that first. Doesn't really matter too much. And once I've got everything disconnected except of course the AIO, then we can do everything else. And I'm just going to take this off. There we go. I guess we can disconnect this too. That's the RGB and our fan from our hub. All that kind of good stuff. This is a little gadget I got. Let me show you this. It goes over the front panel connectors. You can buy this online. I did find that you can get it. And basically it has an on-off switch and a reset. And I find it very helpful for doing stuff like this. So as far as everything else, I'm going to leave it on. The 2 terabyte for the operating system. That's going to stay there. I'm going to disconnect this and we're going to hook up our stock cooler, which is kind of a sin, but that's what we're doing. I'm going to disconnect this here. Again, I will, once I've got this loosened off, I will show you how our thermal paste made contact. Okay, so it's coming off just because of the tension that's on it. Let's focus in there a little bit if we can. And what do we got? So let's take this off. And so there's our AIO. But more importantly, you can see the spread on here. It didn't quite cover up here, so I guess I could have put a little bit more. But you're always worried that you're going to put too much. So now I know I can put a little more there. I'll get better spread, and that'll be good. So what I got to do next, I'm going to remove the thermal paste that's on there, the old stuff. Even though you technically could probably reuse it. I'm not going to. I'd like to have a new application. And then we'll put our stock cooler on. We have to remove these, of course. So I will come back once that's done, and yeah, we'll see what happens. So for those of you who might be wondering, taking off the thermal paste, not hard. I use paper towel. There are other things you can use. And you just want to carefully wipe. Okay, don't get this on your fingers. It'll make a mess. And it'll be on your hand for a while. Just circular motion. Try and get as much off as you can. Try to get the little bit that looks like it wants to go down the edge. Keep that from happening. I like to go around the edges. I want to make sure I got everything. Like I say, I'm not taking it out, and I'm going to be doing this again with another CPU cooler, because I'm going to put a different one on there to keep the temperatures down still. But in the meantime, now there are products you can get, other than just wiping it, that you can put on there and wipe it off and it'll come super clean. Now, the other thing I'm going to be using, once I get all the thermal paste wiped off, is isopropyl alcohol. I'll show you that here in a minute. And that will make it come even cleaner and get all that last little bits off. All right, so don't, I'm not just using paper towel because that alone won't do it. So just be aware. I think I say just be aware a lot, so just be aware. So this is what I'm using. This is rubbing alcohol compound, 95% ethanol. Okay, perfectly safe. And then I usually damp another piece of paper towel, dampen it down, and then I wipe that just to get all the last little remnants of thermal paste off of the CPU. Now, it's not hugely important, but you do want to get it as clean as you can. So just be aware of that. Again, this is all kind of more behind the scenes. In fact, so you got your thermal paste, put it over here, dip it a little bit. That gives you just enough for a little dab. And then don't touch it with your fingers or nothing. And then just wipe that again a little more. Now, it's almost drying as you're doing it, so just be aware of that. And you'll be able to get it nice and clean, ready to go. And I may do this one more time just before, because in case when I take these brackets off, I wind up touching the CPU again. I know a lot of people worry that, oh, they touched it, it's going to be destroyed. It takes a little more than that, so don't worry too much. Now, don't forget, your AIO also needs to be clean. So you can use what you've already put on there and just take that all off. And you're going to have to do it a few times. See how much that comes off? Again, be careful. You don't want to get that on your fingers, although a lot of times you probably will. So again, I'm just going to clean this all off as much as I can. And something I noticed from before is that it has a bit of scratching on it. And I'm not sure if that was there before or not. So again, I'm just going to wipe it all off, get it as clean as I can. I might clean that a little more. And I'll probably clean it again before I reapply. I'm getting some scratches on there, so I'm going to use another piece. We'll get that completely clean, but for now, that's not really important. We're going to put some more thermal paste on here, put our stock cooler on the CPU, and go from there. So we're going to move back, and we're going to have to take these off and reapply. Now, we actually used the brackets or the back plate, I should say, before. We had to remove the brackets, but we did use the back plate. So I took out the one on this side, which is like this one here. But here's the thing. When you're putting your brackets back on, down here, make sure that one points to the right and to the left on this side. Okay? Again, only take out one bracket before you go and start putting on the other bracket. Because that way, it doesn't disengage from the motherboard, and it makes it that much easier for you to put back on. Again, put it on over top of those holes that are there, put it down through here, and tighten it on. Now you can see it bouncing a little bit. That's because it's tightening up. Once that is done, then you'll be able to put the other one on, and it won't bounce quite as much, and you'll be good to go. So do that first. Okay, once that's on there good, now you can take this one off, and it'll just make it that much simpler when you're putting your stock CPU cooler on. See, I don't get that yet. So again, I'm going to take this one off, put the other bracket on, and we'll continue on. So in addition to taking the screws out, of course, you have to take the bracket and the two spacers. Make sure you keep all that together with your AIO for when you go to reinstall it and put it back in place. So now that both of our brackets are on, we're going to go to our stock cooler. So for those of you that haven't put a stock cooler on or want to put it back on, make sure when you're putting it on that this AMD logo, okay, is away from your RAM. It'll give you a little bit more clearance. The other thing to remember is it comes pre-applied with thermal paste. So that saves you a step. So all you have to do is line this up. Actually, you know what? Stock cooler doesn't need these brackets. What that's going to mean is you're going to have to, like if you're on the system, you're going to have to hold the back plate with your hand to keep it from moving and then fasten everything down. Now, I have done this in previous videos, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over that. But just keep in mind that your stock cooler has thermal paste already on it, so that saves you a step of applying it and worrying about it. But anyway, I'll show you how to put it back on if you need to. So now I'm just going to reverse that process, and we're going to put on the stock cooler and go from there. Okay, so again, I'm taking that off. You can see where you're going to need to screw into on both sides here. But when I take this off, I'm going to show you because I don't think many people show that. So we're just going to quickly unscrew it. And on this side, same thing. And watch what happens. See how it disappears? So, and it's going to turn all over the place. So if you do that, well, you just made it a little more difficult if you weren't hanging on to it. Not a big deal. Okay, take off your bracket. And you're just going to have to reposition it. Okay, until you get it in the right place. Okay, so these are where they got to go, like that, underneath. And when you do that, just be ready that when you do that and you're ready to go, you have to hold it in place. So we're going to take our stock cooler. I got to be careful here because I don't want to touch it. And we're going to start tightening it down. Because otherwise, because once you get one tightened down, then it'll hold that bracket in place. But you don't want to tighten it too much, because if you do, you're not going to get the other ones in. Once you kind of feel it moving, see it's not moving anymore, you can take your hand out, do the other side. But when you push down on here, it's going to push down. So you might want to leave your hand underneath there just to prop it up a little bit so that when you push these down, you can see there's a gap here now. So you want to make sure that you're capturing that you're not going to miss it. Because you could screw this in for hours. Well, maybe not hours, and hopefully in a few minutes you'd notice. But you're going to screw it in, and nothing's happening because you haven't reached that little gap of space. I'm going to continue fasten this the rest of the way down. Then we just have to plug this into our CPU fan. Okay, it's 4-pin PWM, which is nice. And then we'll move on. So something you want to notice is when you tighten one of these down, it'll close that gap, and then you'll be able to get to the other one quite easily. So I just wanted to point that out. So you got these two started. You got one over here. Doesn't matter which one started. That will close the gap, and then it'll make it easier for you to put the other one in. So the one that's not in right now would be this one. So Again, I'm trying to push on the back plate, and then you hear that little click. So now we're going to be able to just go ahead, start tightening these all down, a little bit at a time. Usually diagonal works best. Okay, it'll stop when it's at the best it's going to be able to get. Again, I like to go diagonal. Again, it's going to stop when it's completely done. Then we move to the final corner here. Make sure that one's all the way down. And that's it. It's in there good. All right, solid. So the CPU fan. So CPU fan is right here. See, CPU fan 1. It's got the little tab. So when you're taking this, there's a few different things you can do. You can tuck it behind. You can tie a little knot, which a lot of people do. Okay, tie a little knot like that. Okay, so you can tie a little knot like that. Just shorten it a bit. You can still tuck it down underneath. But that lets you get over here and plug in. So little tabs on this side. Plug it in. And that's it. That's all there is to it. And now, like I say, you can readjust this however you wish, and it'll stay out of the way once you get it all good. All right, I'll fix that after. But that is all that matters as far as putting a different CPU cooler on, in this case a stock cooler, so I can take it off the test bench, move it into the Corsair case, and then continue on. So for this video, I'm just going to show you that, because this basically shows you how much work there is involved to getting one system prepared, moving things a little bit. So this is all prepped, ready to go into the other system, but now I have to go to the other system, remove all of that, unplug everything, and there's a little bit more to that because there's RGB fans, there's just a whole bunch of stuff that has to be disconnected, and I have to be mindful of when I'm doing that, that when the new motherboard, this one here, this one, goes into the case, that I make sure I reattach everything, because otherwise you're going to put it in and it's not going to work and you're going to be wondering why. All right, you're going to have to make sure your cables are all hooked up for your power, make sure all your RGB, if you have them, those are all plugged in, so forth and so on, or so on and so forth. I'll get that right. I do this a lot, folks. Anyway, that's pretty much it. I'm just going to stop there. This is kind of a 3-step phase for me. Yeah, that's it. All right, so that's basically, I'm going to call that part 1. Maybe I'll even put that in the title, part 1. I'll have 3 parts. I'll break it down as best I can. When I don't do that, and I condense the video into very, very small, there's a lot of things that I do that you don't see. And therefore it doesn't help you, because you don't, well, what did he do with the brackets? Or why did the backplate fall down? How does he get back up? How does he stabilize it? So many little questions that you don't think about, that people that are building their system for the first time, they want to know. So we're going to build it from right from the beginning, taking off an AIO, putting on a stock cooler, and we're even going to replace that again. So once I got that in the system, I might put on a separate AIO again, and I'll show you how to do it from within the case. Because a lot of people have, and they'll watch the video and say, oh, that's great, you're doing it on a test system. Doesn't help me any, because mine's in a case. How do I get to it? I'll show you that. I'll show you how to do it once it's already in the system, in your case rather. All right? Because it's not hard. It's actually much easier than you think. No more work to it maybe figuring out, but that's what I'm going to show you. All right? So stay tuned for that. That's it for the video. Hope you like it. If you have any questions, let me know. If there's anything you want to see specifically along the way, tell me. I'll make sure that that's included. All right? So if you like it, hit that thumbs up. If you're new here, think about subscribing. Hit that bell for notifications for other videos as they come up, so you'll see part 2 and 3, or however many I break it down into, because my time is pretty limited, actually, unfortunately. And you'll see everything. And then you'll be able to follow along those videos. 1, 2, 3. You'll see it. You'll see it as it's being done. And if you want to watch them back to back, great. And then that way you'll know all the processes, putting stuff on, putting stuff on. Do you need the brackets? Do you not need the brackets? All that kind of good stuff. Okay, that's it for my going on and on. Hope you like it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.